A new report from Labour has recommended a revolution in learning and skills to achieve sustainable economic growth.
Well, the report also calls on the government to deal with what they say is the critical need to invest in growth and productivity.
Joining us now is Shadow Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson. Morning to you, Bridget. First of all, just very quickly, just tell us what Labour would do when it comes to investing in learning and skills, and where would the money for this come from? How much would it cost?
Labour's plan for growth, and the difference in our approach with the Conservatives is we think that growth in our economy comes from working people and businesses who make that impact. So we would reform the apprenticeships levy, we would make it easier for people to upskill and retrain throughout their working lives, and we'd also support employers to make sure that we're creating more apprenticeships. I think that's incredibly important. We'd also reform our childcare system, so we deliver a modern childcare system so that working parents are able to take on the jobs and hours that they want, not forced into making choices about how much childcare they can afford. We do need to see a real shift in our economy, and we've seen a real drop-off both in apprenticeship starts but also in adult learning under the last 12 years of the Conservatives.
Let's talk about the economy if we can. It seems as though there's been a little bit of a pause, a little bit of stability with the appointment of Rishi Sunak as Prime Minister and his new cabinet. What do you think about the state of the economy and the plan, as the Conservatives say, for growth?
Of course, the Conservatives crashed our economy, and we're in a terrible situation now as a country, facing, that black hole that they've created. And we still don't actually fully know the scale of the damage because they've refused to publish the report from the Office of Budget Responsibility that would give us that information. But there is no plan for growth. We've had terrible growth under the Conservatives for the last 12 years, and in fact under Rishi Sunak, who was Chancellor for a significant period of that. I don't think we're going to see more stability, unfortunately, back in the government. It is what our country desperately needs, but I think we're only going to get that with the general election, where the British people can have their say about how our country moves forward, not just Conservative MPs who've had now, three Conservative Prime Ministers in 3 months.
Rishi Sunak's acknowledged that difficult decisions are going to have to be made, and we're anticipating that Conservative government will cut spending and raise taxes. I'm sure all of this will be deeply unpopular. If there was a general election, which we don't think there will be, what would Labour's alternative to that plan be?
Well, it's all very good and well Rishi Sunak talking about tough choices, but these are tough choices that his party has caused when they crashed the economy. That's the reason that we're talking about deep spending cuts. We weren't a month ago, so it's the black hole that they have created. But where it comes to the approach that Labour would take, we think we need to build a fair and modern economy with jobs created in every corner of our country. So, we do face the challenge around climate change, but it's also a brilliant opportunity to create highly skilled jobs in every corner of our country. But if we're going to do that, we have to invest in the people that will make that happen. And that's why we do need to see a real shift where it comes to skills, but also changes in our school system too. So we would end the tax breaks that private schools enjoy, and we put that money into a brilliant state education. I think that's a really straightforward area where Rishi Sunak could raise some money to fund education.
Yeah, but that's not going to fund the kind of money that we're talking about in and of itself. We reckon there'll be about a £40 billion black hole. The decisions that a Labour government would have to make are the same that any government would have to face. Where would spending cuts come?
Well, as I say, the reason that we've got that black hole is because the Tories crashed the economy. So it is down to them. They've caused this problem. But the approach that we would take would be different. So we'd end that charitable status for private schools. That's £1.7 billion. We'd bring in a windfall tax on oil and gas companies who've made such record profits during this crisis that we're seeing. And we'd end the non-dom tax status too. So we'd be looking at different ways that we could have a fairer tax system. Because I think it's only right that if there are tough choices to be made, tough choices that they've caused, then they shouldn't take those options off the table. But I think it really does remain to be seen whether they'll even consider any of those options. I think they absolutely should, because it would get us a long way.
Just very quickly, Prime Minister's questions will be happening at 12 o'clock today. Keir Starmer will go face-to-face with the new Prime Minister for the first time. We're expecting there to be quite a clamour of calls for a general election, but as we know, the Conservatives aren't going to call for one. So is this an opportunity for the opposition to really get in on the detail now of how you would govern differently to be a really credible opposition and potential government in waiting?
I think this is a great opportunity for us to set out the change and the difference that a Labour government would make. So investing in skills, investing in the green jobs of the future and making that shift right across our country. But I think you do also see, people do want an election. Everywhere I go, people say that they want the chance to have their say. They've been denied that by the Conservatives and we're not going to stop calling for it.